There is a storm on Saturn's North Pole. Not a swirl, not a spiral, not the kind of churning atmospheric chaos we expect from a gas giant. A hexagon, 6 sides, 6 angles, each side exceeding the diameter of the entire Earth. It has been sitting there, rotating, persisting, holding its geometry since at least 1981, when the first instruments capable of seeing it finally looked. Decades of observation. No sign of dissipation, no drift, no degradation of its edges. On every other planet we have observed, storms are circular. They follow the physics of rotation, of pressure, of fluid dynamics. That is what storms do. They curve. And yet here, at the crown of Saturn, something holds a perfect geometric form across tens of thousands of kilometers of atmospheric chaos. Scientists have studied it for over 40 years. There are explanations: fluid dynamics, standing wave patterns, resonant structures tied to Saturn's rotation. These are serious proposals from serious researchers, and they may be right.
Hold on. 40 years of serious science and still no definitive answer? For a shape that just sits there?
But here is what those explanations do not address. No comparable structure exists on any other observed planet. Not one. Saturn alone produces this. Saturn alone holds this shape, in this place, for this long. That should feel like a closed question. Rare atmospheric physics. Unusual but natural. Except civilizations that lived 4,000 years ago, who possessed no spacecraft, no instruments, no means of seeing Saturn's North Pole, somehow associated this exact planet with the idea of geometric, structured, imposed order. The question isn't just what the hexagon is. The question is why something that old seems to have already known it was there. Babylon. 2,500 years before the Common Era. A city that never fully slept. The ziggurat rising in tiers above the plain, its summit brushing the lower dark. And somewhere near its top, a man with a clay tablet and a reed stylus, watching a pale point of light drift almost imperceptibly across the sky. He called it Kajamanu. The word does not mean bright. It does not mean distant. It does not describe what the eye actually sees. Kajamanu means the constant, the firm, the one that does not change. Now consider what was available to that astronomer. Jupiter blazes, Mars pulses red like a wound. Venus rises and sets with theatrical precision. And then there is Saturn, slow, pale, nearly motionless against the fixed stars, the least dramatic object in the visible sky. That should make it the least significant, a dim wanderer, barely worth naming.
A dim, barely moving speck in the sky. And they made it the most important planet of all? That makes no sense.
And yet the Babylonian cuneiform texts, some of the oldest astronomical records in human history, designate Saturn as black. Not pale, not yellow, black. Here is where the case gets strange. The same texts also designate Mars as black. Mars, the planet of Nergal, god of death and plague. 2 planets, 1 color, a deliberate pairing documented in scholarship and still unresolved. Black did not describe what they saw. It described what they understood. Order and death, the 2 absolute forces encoded in the same darkness. Saturn was singled out, not despite its stillness, but because of it. Its constancy made it the planet of permanence. Its slowness made it the keeper of time itself. But if the color was a category, something final, something that decides, then the question shifts entirely. What precisely did the Babylonians believe this planet was deciding? And what god did they place inside that darkness? And what did that god actually do? His name was Ninurta. And the question that has been circling through this investigation: who was the god assigned to Saturn's planet, and why, leads here. To a warrior standing in a ruined mountain landscape, surrounded by shattered stone, breathing hard. The epic is called Lugal A. 728 lines, 13 tablets, over 80 surviving copies, a number that signals not casual mythology but something a civilization considered essential to preserve. And new tablet fragments are still being identified in current academic publications, still closing gaps in a tradition that refused to disappear. The enemy Ninurta defeats is called Asaku, Asag. The name does not mean a monster. It does not mean a rival god. It translates precisely as disorder. The thing defeated at his feet is not a creature. It is the concept itself. But here is where the account stops being a war story. After the battle, after the demon of chaos lies broken, Ninurta does not celebrate. He does not rest. He begins to move rivers with his hands. He assigns properties to stones. He makes the land habitable. The same hands that tore disorder apart now build the architecture of a livable world. And those same hands heal. Ninurta is simultaneously a warrior and a physician, connected to the goddess of healing. The force that destroys is the force that restores. This is the philosophical statement encoded in Saturn's mythology. Order is not the default state of reality. It must be won, actively, permanently. The coherence between the slowest, most constant planet and the one god whose entire existence is built around defeating chaos, that coherence is too precise to be accidental. Which raises the question that will not leave us alone. How does a 4,000-year-old royal cosmology become something millions of people casually discuss on social media today? And what does that transmission tell us about the original power of the idea? Somewhere in the Enuma Anu Enlil, roughly 70 tablets, several thousand celestial portents, the most extensive omen collection from antiquity, Saturn appears not as a wandering star, but as something closer to a judge. A second nocturnal sun, deciding royal stability, deciding whether a king's reign would hold or fracture. That framing is specific, not luck, not weather, not harvest, stability. The same concept Ninurta embodied, the same concept encoded in the name Kajamanu, the constant, the firm. And here is where the investigation takes an unexpected turn. That idea, Saturn as the planet of permanence, of structural reckoning, did not stay in Babylon. It moved through Hellenistic astrology into ancient Indian astronomical traditions, where documented Babylonian influence carried the same Saturn as stability framework intact across an entirely different civilization. The transmission was not accidental. Scholars carried the system because it appeared to work as a predictive framework. The underlying observation was too durable to abandon. Saturn's orbit takes approximately 29 years to complete, the longest cycle visible to the naked eye, the slowest clock in the ancient sky. And somewhere along that unbroken chain of transmission, A concept originally addressed to kings quietly shifted its audience. Today, millions of people discuss their Saturn return, the moment the planet completes its first orbit since their birth, arriving back where it started, around the 29th year, a threshold, a reckoning. The same fear of instability, the same planet, the same cycle, just addressed to a different person across 40 centuries. The royal omen became personal, the throne became a life. But if this entire system, the constant planet, the god of order, the 29-year cycle, forms one coherent, ancient architecture of meaning, then what does it mean that at the crown of Saturn itself something holds a perfect geometric form that no other planet in our sky has ever produced? 2 scribes, same room, same night. One recording an omen about the stability of the throne, the other recording an omen about plague and death. Both looking at planets they call by the same color. The Babylonian color system was not decorative, it was functional, the primary metric for deriving omens. 4 planets received colors matching what the naked eye actually sees. Jupiter's brilliance, Venus's cold white fire, Mercury's faint grey, Mars, unmistakably, red. And then Saturn, slow, pale, almost colorless against the dark, designated black.
They called Saturn black when it is visibly pale, and then called Mars black too, even though Mars is unmistakably red. That is not a color system. That is a contradiction.
That alone is strange enough. But here is where the pattern sharpens into something genuinely unsettling. Mars was also designated black. Mars, the planet of Nergal, god of death, plague, and war. 2 planets, 1 color. Saturn, the planet of Ninurta, god of order, of imposed structure, of chaos defeated, and Mars, the planet of annihilation. The 2 black stars, sitting together in the omen tradition, documented in astronomical history journals, still without a conclusive explanation. This is where we leave solid ground and enter the realm of theory. But the theory is compelling. Perhaps black did not describe what they saw. Perhaps it marked what was final. Order established, or life ended. 2 absolute forces encoded in a single darkness, or consider a 3-stage arc, healing through Ninurta, then war, then death through Nergal, black marking both, ends of the cycle, the beginning of structure, the end of everything else. The pairing is internally consistent, too coherent to dismiss, too strange to fully explain. And now, with all of this in place, what does modern science actually say about why the hexagon at Saturn's north pole holds its perfect geometric shape? The laboratory footage is almost mundane. A rotating tank of fluid, carefully controlled temperature gradients, a differential in rotational speed between the inner and outer layers, and then, without intervention, without design, the fluid self-organizes. 6 sides, 6 angles. A hexagon, emerging from chaos under specific rotational and compositional conditions. Reproducible, measurable, real. This is the physical mechanism. Chaos, under the right constraints, does not spiral indefinitely. It locks. It holds a geometric form. And the 44-year photographic record of Saturn's hexagon confirms this is not an anomaly. It is a principle. Stable, persistent, without dissipation. Now hold that image. Cut to the Cassini photograph. The North Pole of Saturn. The hexagon enormous and perfectly formed, rotating in the dark. Then cut to the cuneiform tablet, Kajamanu, the constant one, the planet assigned to the god whose entire existence is defined by defeating chaos and building permanent order.
Are we seriously suggesting that ancient Babylonian priests somehow intuited a geometric storm pattern on a planet they could only see as a faint dot of light?
The planet they named the Constant One, whose god defeats chaos to build geometric lasting structure, turns out to host at its very crown a storm that is the physical demonstration of exactly that principle. Chaos self-organizing into permanent geometric form. Some observations, made carefully enough and over long enough time, arrive at the truth before the instruments do. But here is what remains open. What does it mean that the oldest surviving human records and a 44-year NASA photograph are pointing at the same thing? And that neither science nor scripture has fully explained why?